Hello, everybody, and welcome this time to Guildmaster Gaming. Today we have writer-director John Chiodi of his film Midnight Ink, which we got to see at the film festival this year, Film Quest 2024. So, John, please tell us about yourself and your film.
Hey, yeah, Dan, thanks so much for having me. My name's John Chiodi. I'm from New Jersey originally, living here in New York now. And what's wild is this film was actually my NYU thesis, which to me is insane because I graduated in 2020 at home in my pajamas. But NYU had this program that actually allowed for us to use the equipment a little bit after we graduated because obviously nobody was shooting anything back then. Nobody was doing anything back then. So yeah, we kind of got this awesome opportunity to work with all this like very high level equipment a few years after I graduated. And yeah, Midnight Ink is it's a weird one. It's about these two kids. Well, really, the one kid is going through a time of great change in his life, and suddenly decides that he wants a tattoo right then and there. So him and his buddy, who he kind of drags along, go on this epic quest across town in the middle of the night to go get this tattoo, which at that age is an awesome idea, and everybody should do it. And the further they get from home, the idea is sort of the more surreal things start to happen.
Okay. And by the way, mention that this was your thesis film. Congratulations on the nominee for the best student film.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
That's always a quite an honor considering the number of films that happen at Film Quest. Uh, to make it
Yeah.
win is
Yeah.
one thing, but to get nominated is a whole nother step. So congratulations.
I thank you very much. I mean, just the sheer volume of stuff that we saw. I mean, we were there for only a fraction of the time that the whole festival was going on, uh, and just were bombarded, drowning in all these awesome shorts, especially. So yeah, we're really appreciative of that.
So your film did get a really good reception from the audience. I was there and I heard some of the what you just told us about the use of equipment and everything. But since this started, it sounds like, some years ago, but even before that, it probably started of, the concept of the idea and where, how it developed. So where did this idea come from? What was the kernel of the start?
Sure, yeah, it was actually funny because originally I was going to shoot a different project as my thesis, and sort of kind of fell out of love with that as time went on. And I mean, with something as big as COVID, how could you not just be in another mindset? Uh, it was really a snapshot of how I was feeling, kind of in that weird post-college COVID era. I moved out to LA for a little bit. I was there for 2 years. It was my first time moving away from home and kind of going through all the emotions that come with that, right? Where you're separated from all your friends and family. You're kind of exploring this new place for the first time. And it was just a time of really like big uncertainties, right? Where I felt like I was sort of not on a set path for the first time in my life, kind of let loose on the world. Um, so it wasn't really that big of a leap to connect that to another time in your life that's filled with just constant change, which is, adolescence. Um, so yeah, I mean, it really became a story about kind of not just fear of growing up or fear of change, but in my opinion, it's sort of just this fear of growing into a person that you don't recognize, right? Of becoming this person that if everything about you is different, if your interests are different, you look different, if all your friends are different, how much of you is still there? And that was kind of the heart of what we were going for here.
Okay, so it sounds like you went through a little bit of self-exploration just with everything you were going through. So, so
Yeah,
did so did you end up with a tattoo?
yeah. No, I didn't end up with a tattoo. The tattoo, it was sort of just this expression of like permanence, trying to hang on to something, some part of you, if everything about you is going to change. That's sort of where that idea came from. Uh, and a lot of people, it's funny, I've actually gotten a lot of like flack about the tattoo, the anti-tattoo stance that the film seems to take. But I don't have a problem with it. I don't have any. For me, it was more just about like the act of getting something so permanent and probably trying to iron this like not very thought out version of yourself onto yourself for the rest of your life. That's kind of shown at the end where the kid gets kind of a stupid, not meaningful, not anything tattoo that he just kind of thinks like it's more about the act of getting something rather than what the thing actually is. And then when he actually looks at it, he's like, why? Like what? Like this was stupid. Yeah.
So you do play a lot of the themes of, that, coming of age and some of those things. Um, but there's also a lot of interesting symbolism that develops as the film progresses. Do you want to kind of talk about how you chose some of those images of, going from like the suburban home to almost the ghetto-esque tattoo parlor?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the whole philosophy behind it being like an adventure type of movie was to make kind of just a walk into town feel like this big epic adventure, or as big as we could make it. Um, and a lot of that I think was inspired by just like me being a kid in my town. Before you could drive, before you could do anything, what would we do? We would all walk to the 7-Eleven, meet up, hang out. And for me, that would be like a 40-minute walk just to like buy a Slurpee and like hang out for a few hours. So yeah, I mean, I guess subconsciously when I think back to being a kid, a lot of it is like walking, walking into town, walking down the street. But for this film specifically, we wanted to capture that feeling of kind of like staying out a little too late as a kid, like kind of what weird stuff goes on that you're not aware of, and creating this sort of like liminal space type of purgatory feeling whenever that they were like out, and pushing the like realism of it, or the surreality of it, um, and just making sure that every interaction they had was like meaningful thematically or pushed the story forward in some way.
Yeah. And it was all very well done that way. I'll grant it that the thematics were very much in play, all the way from the beginning to the end. So this you've shown at FilmQuest. Whereabouts are you in your festival run? And how much longer do you have to go?
Yeah, sure. Film Quest was our world premiere, which was super exciting. Could not have asked for a better time and a better just environment at Film Quest. We had such an awesome time. And now we're really just kind of waiting to hear back. We kind of wrapped up in like late April, which I guess, knowing so little about the festival circuit, this whole thing has been such a learning experience for me, by the way. I guess that's a weird time to like wrap up your movie when it comes to submitting for things. So we're just kind of waiting to hear back from a lot of spots right now, and starting in January, going to probably start another round of submissions.
Okay. So far, have you had any nibbles on distribution after the festival circus?
I mean, it's really so far we've only screened it at Film Quest,
Oh,
so
okay.
no labels there. But we met a lot of awesome people. Got in touch with a few distributors that were looking for features, of course, as they usually are. So made some good contacts for later on, but not necessarily for this one.
Okay, that makes sense. So, kind of looking ahead then beyond Midnight Ink,
Mhm.
what projects does John have in store for people to kind of watch out for?
Oh man. I've got a lot of ideas, that's for sure. I think I'm in between two right now. I've got a few scripts, but it's a big decision because it's either like full hardcore horror short. I mean, they're all going to be shorts because I can't afford anything else right now. Uh, Horror short or comedy short. And I kind of need to pick one or the other because I definitely cannot afford to do both right
Oh,
now.
or you could make a comedy horror.
That is true. I could combine them somehow. It's funny. I mean, a lot of the horror that I love is that kind of campy language, right? Of like obviously like Evil Dead, Sam Raimi is like, I love it. I eat it up. But when it comes to making my own horror thing, I feel like it's an excuse for me to kind of get really like dark with it and play with those thematics of I don't know, like exploring a lot of really dark stuff that you wouldn't be able to do in like a conventional like drama or any other kind of movie is for me what's really exciting about working on a horror. And then the comedy of it would be just, I love 21 Jump Street, I love those kinds of like buddy comedies. And the excuse to kind of play fast and loose with performances that don't need to be as not nuanced, but can be just a little like dumber, and to be a little more exploratory with editing and more like almost like video-esque with it instead
Okay.
of like this filmic feeling. Yeah, no, so I'm kind of in between the two right now.
Okay. And like they say, really the only real difference between, I know in writing, I should say this, uh, the difference between a horror and a comedy is the final beat.
Yeah. Oh, I've
It's
heard the difference between the horror and a comedy is the music.
it's like how it goes through at the end. You got if it turns up, it's comedy. If it turns down, it's horror.
Okay.
On the, it's set up and then you move through and here's the punchline. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I like
uh,
that. I'll keep that in mind.
because I work with a lot of horror writers just along those lines. So you got that coming up then. You got that in the past. Let's kind of go back. What are some of the film inspirations that you've had that you used in Midnight Ink, and maybe just in the way that kind of pulled you towards? And we'll combine it with two questions. What are some of your
Sure.
film inspirations, and why did you decide you wanted to become a filmmaker?
Oh man, I it's such a specific moment where I felt like I was like hit with a beat or something because it was around like sixth or seventh grade, like around that time people start asking you like, all right, what's your deal? Like, what do you want to be? Who are you? All those big existential questions. And I just remember like I don't really know, like I was a kid, I wasn't really thinking about it. I liked video games, I guess. I liked movies, like every kid likes movies. Um, but didn't really like dive into it until weirdly of all movies, I was sitting there watching Super 8, whenever that came out, like 2014 or something. I was like 16 or no, I think it was earlier. But yeah, I was watching all those kids make that movie in that movie. That was yeah, like the Spielberg isms of it. Really just like spoke to me and my young mind. And watching all those kids make that horror movie, I was like, yeah, that's that's what I want to do. And then just getting to the end of Super 8, I was like, that's the kind of thing I want to like put into the world, you know? Because I was always like a creative kid. I was the dude who was like, I remember if somebody handed me their paper to like grade in fourth grade, I would like unconsciously just draw all over it, and hand it back with like a stick figure war. And the poor girl would be like, what is this? Why did you do this? I'm like, I don't know. So I knew it wanted to be something. I knew I wanted to do something creative, and yeah, movies just hit me like a train at that age. And then specifically for this, Super 8 is not, it's not out of the world of the language of this movie. I feel like, at least in the thinking of it phase, but just looked back to a lot of uh, wholesome coming of age movies that I love, and also looking at a lot of movies that play with surreality that I love. So, looking at everybody says Stand By Me because it's great. There's another great movie by John Watts called Cop Car. A lot of those like kids bonding kind of movies. Let the Right One In as well. And then for the surrealness of it, like Charlie Kaufman movies, I love. I can go on a whole tangent about that, but I won't. Uh, Swiss Army Man is another one. And any movie that this is what Charlie Kaufman does, and I think you heard me speak about this at Film Quest, but better than anybody else, I feel like he externalizes a character's kind of internal struggle and puts it into the world, like almost better than anybody. And that's what I really loved about it. So just kind of wanted to express what this kid was going through in a way that wasn't um, just through the camera work or something like that, but really amp it up and give people something to talk about, like a noodle arm, you know?
Sounds great. So,
Yeah.
we've kind of talked about where you came from in all this and kind of what you've done with this film, you know, and some possibilities of kind of looking forward to what you're kind of working on. But if you had the opportunity to do a dream project, either your own or someone else's, what would be your dream project to work on?
Oh, you're killing me. Killing me. I mean, there's such an easy answer. I love superhero stuff, but uh, give me if we could erase. I'm sorry, if we could erase the Tom Hardy Venom movies, just for a bit, give me a Venom movie or give me a Spider-Man movie, please. That's what everybody says. It's a very generic answer, but I want it. I want to do the double life thing. I want the high flying action. Uh, yeah, or something like that. Yeah, in my dream world.
Okay, so with like a Spider-Man movie, the double identity, what would
Yeah,
be your take that you would like to throw in there that would be your signature part to make that your project?
sure. I mean, I feel like the whole thing is so for the Venom of it, if we're doing Venom movie, rather than make it like this kind of buddy duo, which is working well for Sony, my take would be probably like a story about addiction, having him be an actual tragic character because he is a villain, like you said, those stories end on a downbeat to make him um, more like negatively motivated rather than, oh, we've got this all figured out. Good for us. Probably play into his like religious backstory a little bit, and like basically how his entire life is ruined by this addiction that he has, and instead of taking responsibility for it, blames it on others. That's his whole deal. Eddie Brock, clown. And then with Peter Parker, such a nerdy question, but I love it. Peter Parker, my whole take on him would be just he's a guy that can't. I mean, it's the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2 of it, right? He's a guy that can't be in two places at once, and that's it. It all comes down to responsibility, sacrificing responsibilities over here for the greater good, and uh, and yeah, I mean, just he's a dude that can't be in two places at once. That's the take.
Okay. Sounds like a lot of fun. So, you sounds like you got a lot of things that you do that working in film. Sounds like you
Mm.
probably are working in film, even maybe in the day job part of it. So let me ask you this. What do you like to do to kind of break away and relax?
Yeah, I mean, anything where I can turn my brain off and just kind of like use my hands, um, is a big thing. Like video games, kind of just mindlessly, relaxing like that. I used to get Legos all the time. That was big for me because I would just kind of mindlessly put those together and let my brain kind of relax for a bit. Um, so yeah, anything that's kind of tangible, and also it helps, especially with the like Legos of it all. Uh, Leaving that, like finishing that, and having like a result at the end, like feeling like I accomplished a thing, even in my like free time, is a weird thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, I understand that aspect of seeing something through to completion, seeing the
yeah,
final
yeah.
product. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, you know, this is how you came about your thing. Now, if someone was coming to you and say, "Hey, I want to become a filmmaker," what advice would you give them?
I mean, it's the easiest advice in the world, and it's just do it. Like it doesn't. I guess there's a lot of aspects to that, right? Where it's you could sit there and overthink it to death and think about all the reasons why it'd be a pain in the ass to do, all the money that it would cost, all the equipment that you'll need to find. But if you just start setting things in motion and you start doing it, and you put yourself in the middle of it, it gets a lot harder to back out when things get a little bit scary. And at the end of the day, it's worth it always. At the end of the day, you put something into the world, you probably went through hell and back to get it done. Uh, and you should be proud of yourself. Like that's my big thing is, yeah, don't overthink it. Take the pressure off yourself. In the places that you can, you should still be responsible. You are responsible for everybody who's there if you're leading it, if you're directing it. Um, just do it. It doesn't need to be Citizen Kane. You can make something stupid, and that's okay because you still made something. So, yeah, I hope people watch this. They see me and they're like, "Damn, if that moron can do it, then I could probably do something pretty good."
It's like when you say make something stupid, I've heard people say, "Hey, remember somebody made Sharknado."
Made them plenty of money, I'm sure. you know,
Well, they
and
made
people
five
know
of
if they
them.
yeah, right, right. Uh, and there's room for that. Like, not everything needs to be this exhaustive analysis on the human condition, but like you can entertain. People probably need that now more than ever. You know, it's just flat out entertainment.
Okay. So we'll just kind of fin up when one final thing of ask you, is there anything else you'd like to say? Anybody you'd like to thank? Anything you'd like to throw out there and tell everybody?
I mean, I want to thank everybody. I say this all the time, but I definitely want to thank my parents for letting us sleep in our house for for like a week, even though they had construction going on, and just dealing with me when locations were dropping out, when everything was going to hell. I just really appreciate all their support always. So thanks to the cast and crew, but especially thanks to my parents and my sister, who I guess also was there and supported me passively.
Well,
I
sounds like a little bit of sibling rivalry that we won't get into.
don't know what you're talking about. Dan, what do you
I have two brothers and two sisters, so I
Oh yeah, you know better than anybody. There you go.
All right. Well, thank you, John, for joining us here at Guildmaster Gaming. And everybody out there, if you like what you're seeing here, please give it a like, share it out to people that you think would be interested in this film. And if you really like what we're doing, subscribe to the channel. It gives me an opportunity to do more like what we're doing here and now. So again, John, thank you for joining us.
Well, Dan, I just want to say thank you for giving all these filmmakers the platform to talk about their stuff. What you're doing is awesome, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. And until we talk to everybody again, see you soon.